Hi, my name is Brittany J. Jones. In this video, I will be demonstrating how to do stay stitching on your garments. When I first started sewing, I was unsure if I really needed stay stitching or not, but I'm here to show you and tell you that you do need it. Stay stitching is really beneficial, especially around necklines and curves. It helps to keep those areas nice and intact and prevent them from stretching out as we are constructing our garment. It also acts as a guide since it is stitched on a 1/2 inch seam allowance and our seam line is a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. That 1/2 inch line, it acts as a guide, so if we need to add some snips into the curves to maybe slash and spread the garment a little bit, it acts as a little guide for us so we know not to go past that line. Let's get into doing some stay stitching now. To do stay stitching, I'm going to be using this piece of fabric here. You will commonly see stay stitching done along curves. So for necklines and also other various places in the pattern, depending on the type of design you're doing, you may see stay stitching done. The reason why it is done and why it is necessary is because it keeps the fabric from stretching out along the curves. We want our curves to remain nice and intact. And sometimes as we are constructing garments, some pieces can start to spread a little bit more than we would like. So the stay stitching will make sure that it keeps everything nice and in place. For this demonstration, I'll be doing the stay stitching at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. There are times and patterns where you may see it at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, so just be sure that you read your instructions. But again, for this demonstration, I'll be doing a 1/2 inch seam allowance. The key to this is to make sure that you follow along with the arrows of your pattern in the direction that it says. This too will also prevent your curves from stretching out. If you start from one end and just go to the other, you will start to stretch out this curve here. So it's important to, again, follow the directions in your sewing guide. Here's an example here of the arrows, and you can see how they are going toward the center of the pattern. So these are the arrows that you need to look for to make sure that you are doing your stay stitching in the right direction. One thing that I like to do to give me a little bit of a guide for my center is to place a tiny snip right there along the center. So I'm going to begin stay stitching here at the top, and I'm going to do a 1/2 inch seam allowance right here till I get to the center. Then I will start at this side and do the same thing coming right into the center. I've just stitched on my stay stitching. Again, I followed the arrows according to my pattern directions and they led to the center. So I started here at a 1/2 inch seam allowance and worked my way to the center, started on this side and then worked my way to the center. Again, the purpose of this is to help keep our curves intact as we're constructing the garment. And again, if you need to place snips along your fabric, we can clip right up to our stay stitching line, which is again at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So that is not interfering with our seam line at all. And again, we can just snip, and that allows us to create extra room if we need it. Once you have installed your stay stitching, you can go ahead and continue constructing your garment.